Yeah, live back in action, attacking your speakers from the field to the bleachers. This is the Power 32 podcast, baby. Here we are for the hour of power with my main man, Mr. Primetime 313, David Dale in the house. What's going on, my partner?
What up, though? How's it going, man? How you doing?
All good, baby. I'm chilling, man. I'm happy. It's football. It's here.
Man,
Tonight
oh
is the
man.
first night officially, the Hall of Fame game. Your Lions versus, I'm going to call them my Chargers because I'm Miami Chargers this year. And we'll see how that goes. I want to check out a Marion Hampton tonight. My former boy, Trey Lance, is going to be starting for the Chargers. And Hendon Hooker, a guy who's been around the NFC North a little bit, is gonna play for you guys and see if we can get some points on the board.
Yeah, I'm kind of, Hendon Hooker. I was high on him in Tennessee. I was a big fan, and I was kind of glad when the Lions drafted him. But he really hasn't kind of amounted to anything yet. I know he hasn't gotten a lot of playing time because
That's the
Goff
problem.
doesn't get hurt. But
Yeah, he hasn't had a chance.
the time that we have seen him a little bit up here, it's not been the greatest. But I think they really reeled in the playbook whenever he comes in, just because they're afraid of mistakes and whatnot. But the preseason will be his opportunity to shine. So, watching the game tonight, we'll kind of see what happens. Because
Yeah, you never know. I mean, NFL quarterbacks go down all the time. Jared Goff has had a really good history of health, though. Jared Goff has been healthy throughout his entire career, whether it's with the Rams or the Lions. And he knows got to get rid of the ball quick, and that's something that maybe a lot of fans in general don't realize so much is getting rid of the ball quick. And Jared Goff does a really good job doing that. He doesn't take a lot of big hits. So, and that is a way that makes him, good in a lot of ways. It helps him out. He's accurate and he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders. So Jared Goff, where things maybe looked a little shaky in LA, he's proven himself in Detroit.
Yeah, and contrary to popular belief too, Jared Goff can throw the deep ball. The biggest knock on Goff is that he's not mobile. But you know what? I know a couple, some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time weren't really mobile, and I'm not putting him on that pedestal. But at the same time, when you're good, people kind of find things, to be wrong with you, and the fans here, it's kind of a love-hate relationship with Jared Goff. There's a lot of people think he's the best quarterback that the Lions have had. And then there's still a lot of people that can't let Matthew Stafford go. So it kind of goes with the territory. Yeah, but he handles it well, man. He really does. He's embraced the city. Most of the people have embraced him, and he's a really good dude. So,
no doubt. All right. Well, we'll see how things go for the Lions as they play tonight against the Chargers. We'll keep our eye on that as we get ready to rock and roll over here on Power 32. You know how we do. We start out with NFL trivia as always. So we're going to bring it. Here we go. But yeah, today is a lot of fantasy football. All right. We're going to talk fantasy football. We got our drafts coming up in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I think the closer to the season you do with it, better, but we'll talk about it in a bit. So, Prime, are you ready for the trivia of the week?
I'm always ready, baby. Let's do it.
Here we go. Saquon Barkley last year became the second running back in NFL history to win the rushing title, Offensive Player of the Year, and Super Bowl in the same season. Can you tell me who the first was? The only other one besides Saquon.
I'm going to have to, if this isn't, I'm not going to call this a slam dunk because I'm going to look like an idiot if I get it wrong. But there's only one other player that comes to mind, and he was my top running back of all time. I'll say Marshall Faulk.
That's not a bad guess at all. And
it's not Marshall Faulk.
It's not Marshall Faulk. And if I was asked this question, I might have said Emmitt Smith. To be honest with you, I had to look it up, and the answer is Terrell Davis, I should say.
Really?
Yeah, so he won Offensive Player of the Year, the rushing title, when he went for over 2,000 yards.
Oh, yeah.
That year.
Yeah,
so Marshall Faulk, he really never led the league in rushing per se, but yards per scrimmage, that's a different story with him.
Yeah, so I dropped that one. But, yeah.
So
I'm kind of had a couple weeks in a row where I didn't get the entire answer. But
overall, you've been killing it, though.
Yeah, it is what it is. So I got one for you.
All right.
I think you're going to get this one. I kind of played to the fact that you're not like a huge college football guy, but I think once I say the school and the names, I think you're going to get it. So here we go.
All right.
So we all know the name Matt Castle.
Yeah.
Matt Castle played at USC from 2001 to 2004, and he never started in college football. However, he backed up 2 Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks
Uh-huh.
while he was at USC. Name those 2 quarterbacks.
One, I believe, is Matt Leinart.
There you go.
And the other is that too early for him? No, I think it's Carson Palmer.
Ding, ding, ding. How you doing? Right. How you doing? He got it, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll take it. I'll take the victory right there. Nice.
All right, good question. There you go.
I like it. Good question. All right,
I figured. I'm like, it's a little hit. I'm like, I know you like to say not a huge cop, but I'm like, he'll get this one.
Yeah. Well, Matt Leinart, maybe not the obvious one, and Carson Palmer. I was thinking, is that too early for him? I mean, too late for him. I thought maybe he was drafted a little bit earlier, but no, I'm like, he's got to be the answer right there. So, all right.
Let me ask you something real quick, quick, 30 seconds. Hey, did you think Matt Leinart was going to be a good pro? Back in the day, I'm sure you were around back then, into stuff back then. Did you think when he was coming out of college, did you think he'd end up being a good pro?
No, never did. Not for 1 second. Thought the way that he played in college was just so easy, the way that USC was set up, and the fact that Reggie Bush was really that entire offense. Now, I thought Reggie Bush was going to be a good player. He was an okay player, a decent player in the NFL, but he went around to many different teams, and he never was what we thought. So him, I thought, not Matt Leinart, though.
Yeah, and Reggie Bush actually had a stop up here in Detroit. He played with the Lions for a hot second, too. So, yeah, it was but yeah, I didn't think Leinart was going to be all that great. I knew there was something special with Carson Palmer, but Matt Leinart just didn't. He just, he's one of those long lines of guys that are really good in college, but they just, for whatever reason, they can't cut it pro. What's up, Simon? How you doing, Mr. Second Shift Simon? They moved him from second shift or first shift to second shift, so Simon's no longer works for me, but that's my guy. That's one of the most knowledgeable. He's like 21, 22 years old. And that guy's got like football knowledge of like a 50-year-old dude.
Wow, love it, man. Love it. It's like some of those kids who just know like every stat in the entire world when they're 10 years old. It's crazy.
Oh, he's a geek. He's definitely a geek.
Awesome. Well, who's not a geek? Terry McLaurin, because he wants to get paid. He's no fool, all right? And now he went to camp, went on the PUP list for a few days, like, okay, I got a little bad ankle over here, but what's really going on is that he wants his money, all right? He's at the end of his 3-year, $68 million contract. He's due about $20 million this year, but he wants more because he's getting up there in age now. And now, prime, he has requested a trade from the Washington Commanders. This is bad freaking news.
And did either one of us see that coming? Because I know over the last couple of weeks we were kind of talking about it like in big deal or no deal, or just kind of like our off-season news. We thought that it would be detrimental to the development of Jaden Daniels if they did anything but sign Terry McLaurin, and for him to come out and request a trade. Now my question to you, Prophet, is do you think this is just a leverage play, or do you think he really wants to leave Washington? I personally think that this is kind of a leverage play. I don't think he really wants to leave Washington unless his agent's been in his ear about potentially going somewhere else. What do you think, man?
I would actually tend to agree with you. I think it probably is more of a leverage play than anything because he's not getting anywhere with his contract. So in order to do something, you're going to have to like either go on Twitter X or come out and say, you know what, I want to trade. And that's it. End of story. And that's what he's doing now. And we've seen a lot of players do that, and they still end up signing with their own team. So that can easily happen with the Commanders. And I agree, they need him. Jaden Daniels needs him because Debo is not the guy. Debo is a complimentary piece to Terry McLaurin. He's your number one. You got to have him. And if you don't, it's going to probably stunt Jaden Daniels' growth, even though Jaden Daniels is a really good player. What's Simon saying? I don't think Washington can lose him, talking about Terry McLaurin, and still be a contender. I think he knows that. Yeah, I think so too. I just don't think that Washington wants to give him $30 million. That's the problem.
But if you figure you still got Jaden Daniels on his rookie deal, you're not really paying anybody, goo-gobs of money.
Right.
Why not make your second best player happy if it's gonna, if I'm Jaden Daniels, I'm in the front office right now. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, front office. We got something.
Yeah, we got something rolling right now. And you guys want to, him haul around and not give this guy his money. And maybe as the summer goes on before we get to the season, maybe there's an opportunity, a chance that he does really mean that he wants to be traded. I can't really see it. I wouldn't bet on it. But at the same time, man, the guy wants to get paid. And Prophet, I know you think, and I'm sure Simon thinks this too, he deserves to get paid. And I don't use that a lot. I don't use the term deserve a lot because, as Clint Eastwood said, deserves got nothing to do with it. But at the same time, he's got Washington by the gishkas, and they need to sign him, man. There's really no other. There's no, you can elaborate and all day long. There's really no bones about it. They need to sign him, Prophet.
They do need to sign him. It's extremely important. I totally agree with you. They got to get him in there. He's their number one guy on offense besides Jaden Daniels, obviously. Got to sign Terry McLaurin. I would do Washington if I were them. Give him a 2-year extension. He's on his 3rd year right now of the last year of his contract. Give him 2 more years. And yeah, go ahead and you know what? Give him that $29-30 million that he really wants and take advantage of that window with Jaden Daniels where you don't have to pay him yet and see if you can, catch lightning in a bottle and maybe win one of these things. I mean, they were a Final Four team last year. Yep. So I do think that this is going to get done. I don't think he gets traded, but I'll tell you what, I believe that Pittsburgh Steelers' ears perked up when they heard that McLaurin wanted to trade because Steelers got money, they got capital, they can make this happen if they wanted to. So I would watch out for a possible trade to maybe Pittsburgh, maybe the 49ers, even though I do think he will end up with Washington.
Here, let's throw a name since we're talking money and assets. Because the Patriots still got a lot of money left.
Sure.
I don't know, it'd probably be for picks because, the Patriots right now, they're rebuilding, and they don't have a lot of guys that maybe would pique Washington's interest. But I think just the money, if anybody's got the money to sign him, it's, and then, him going with next to Stephon Diggs. I mean, in New England, that would make Drake May very happy.
Oh, forget about it. That would be amazing for Drake May. That'd be amazing for that team. Incredible. I mean, yes, absolutely. They have the resources to go after him as well. I mean, that would be incredible. So, yeah, all right, we'll see how it plays out. We're not going to go into Micah Parsons and Trey Hendrickson and all that. We already know what's going on. We don't want to regurgitate what everybody else
Trey went to practice, but he didn't practice.
Yeah. He's not playing until he gets that money, man. That's what it looks like. And, we'll see. Maybe Joe Burrow's going to have to step up a little bit. But we did want to do some fantasy football. We're getting close. I got some drafts coming up that I can't wait. I love doing mock drafts. It's so much fun. Have you done any mock drafts lately? I mean, I know you said you have been out on the fantasy football for a little while, but where are you right now? Because
actually,
break it down.
No, actually, I've been looking. I've been kind of doing some little, how can you say, some reconnaissance, if we can use such big words on the show. But yeah, I haven't done any mock drafts yet. I've looked at some mock drafts. You got Matthew Berry and guys like that out there. Yahoo and NFL Network and all those guys. But I haven't really done any active mock drafts yet, and I'll probably within the next week or two, just to kind of get back in the groove, I'll probably do one or so here or there. Yeah. But I'm kind of, and it's funny, I've been out for a while, but it's still, a lot of it comes back to you.
Oh yeah,
as it's like riding a bike. So, but no, to answer your question, I have not done any active mock drafts.
Well, that'll definitely help. And the draft is the key to me to start your season. Many people lose their season when they do their draft because they make dumb decisions. So the draft is really more important than people think. And if you follow some of my simple rules, then you will be in the playoffs and contending for a championship. Rule number 1.
Listen up, boys and girls. Listen up.
Don't ever draft a quarterback in the first round. Don't do it. It is so not worth it. In fact, you shouldn't even think about it probably until the 4th round. There's about 10 to 12 quarterbacks out there that are going to put up big numbers at the end of the day. Then there's another 3 or 4 that even become starters, like Baker Mayfield. Nobody drafted him last year, and look what happened. He became the 4th ranked fantasy quarterback. You can get Jordan Love late. You can get Jared Goff late. Now, they're not going to put up the same numbers as Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson on a consistent basis, but you're going to get consistent numbers. And if you do draft a quarterback in the first round prime, that's putting you already behind the 8 ball, because my rule number 2, which goes along with the first rule, is that you need to stock up on running backs and wide receivers.
Let me ask you something. Let me jump in real quick. Why is that? For the people that may be new to fantasy football or just are looking to get into it for the first time. But why are running backs and wide receivers at more of a premium than a quarterback in fantasy football, which is the exact opposite when you're talking about the real thing?
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. There are two reasons. One is that you usually are starting 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs, so you need depth there. Another reason is the fact that running backs especially get hurt, and we see a lot of new running backs come along during the season. So you want to draft a lot, you want to draft backups, and wide receivers. I mean, listen, you have a lot of flex players as well. It's not just your 2 wide receivers, your 2 running backs. You got a flex or 2 flex, depending on what league you're in. And those are going to be wide receivers and running backs. And you've got to stock up on them because certain ones are going to get hurt and you're going to need to bring somebody in eventually. Otherwise, you're going to be in the waiver wire the whole year and begging for a trade and probably losing out on it because you get so desperate.
Okay. All right. Well, one more question. Let's go back to your rule number 1 about not drafting a quarterback in the first round. So would that depend on how big your league is? Would that rule, let me ask, I guess what I'm trying to say, is there any flexibility to your rule number 1 at all?
Maybe if you're playing in an 18 league, which is kind of Bush league anyway, because that's really not telling you who's a great manager and who can draft. Like 10 minimum, 12 is really the best. Some, do 14, right there. But drafting a quarterback in the first round, again, what you're going to have your Josh Allens and your Lamar Jacksons who put up those insane numbers, and maybe even a Joe Burrow. So maybe you get 3 quarterbacks that do that. But there are so many other quarterbacks that give you those fantasy points that you can draft later on after you've stocked up on running backs and wide receivers.
So do you see a lot of noobs make that mistake of drafting because they hear Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow? Do you think that a lot of noobs make that mistake because they're just going by name value and not doing their homework and research as to see, what these guys, they don't know the ins and outs like you do. So they're tempted to grab the big name, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allen.
There you go. That's the perfect name right there. And that's not where you want to go, because if you look at Patrick Mahomes over the past few seasons, he has not been a top fantasy quarterback.
Absolutely
not. Even though he is the best quarterback in the game right now, we know that he's not putting up fantasy type numbers. We know Joe Burrow is going to, because he's got T. Higgins and he's got Jamar Chase, and they throw the ball like crazy over there and they play from behind. So you know that they're going to get a lot of points. So if you want to go after a quarterback, yeah, you could do it maybe in the 3rd round. I'm all right with that. But really, anything before that, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot a little bit, Prime.
Cool. And what was your rule number 2 again?
So the rule number 2 went along with rule number 1, and that is to stock up on the running backs and the wide receivers because they get hurt so much. And, you got to get as many top wideouts and backs as you possibly can. And really, even toward the end of the draft is where you want to stock up on them, guys. So it's really important to have those guys, and you can use them as trade pieces going forward. If you really need a big-time wide receiver and you've drafted 3 to 4 really good running backs and you can part with one, that's going to give you that value right there. So, again, stock up on those guys. That's rule number 2.
Makes perfect sense.
Rule number 3, real quick, real simple. If you draft a kicker before the very last round, you're an absolute fool. There is no guessing, no knowing what's going to happen with a kicker at all. That highly depends on the team that he's on. That depends on how many chances they get. Depends on how accurate he is. You take all that, you really don't know what's going to happen. So drafting a kicker other than the very last round, Prime, is inexcusable. You cannot.
So even if that kicker is Justin Tucker or I forgot who's your guy in San Francisco there. I forget it.
Jake Moody.
Yeah, Jake Moody or the lights out guy in Kansas City. I mean, there's absolutely no. So it drafting him in like the round before the last. Is that something that
would my hair wouldn't catch fire if that happened. That would be the worst possible thing. But you better be drafting your defense last if you do that, because defense is another one that you just don't know about, and that is rule 4. Much like kickers, defenses are hard to predict. You know who the best defenses are going to be in the season. However, the majority of defensive points are scored from turnovers, sacks, interceptions, return touchdowns. Even special teams play a big part in defense, where you can get a return touchdown there, or a block kick, a block punt, something like that. So, and again, that'll keep you away from the waiver wire in a lot of ways. Don't waste your time thinking about, the Houston Texans have a great defense. The Denver Broncos have a great defense, Prime. That doesn't matter. Even though they have great defenses, They may shut a team out, put them down, but they may not get a lot of sacks. They may not get a lot of interceptions. So don't waste time going after a defense and a kicker early on.
So you're saying ultimately there's just no value on drafting a defense early or drafting, a kicker, that's kind of obvious because in the real world, kickers don't get drafted early. But it does make perfect sense, ladies and gentlemen, as Prophet's breaking all this down for you, that the value, you get, it's kind of like getting caught up, like you say, in the hoopla of your rule number one. You're like, oh my God, the Ravens defense, I'm going to, but ultimately, what is that defense going to do for you week in and week out? So it makes perfect sense that that's one of your do nots.
Right. And it's not like you're going to play the Raiders defense, but one week the Raiders defense may have this really weird matchup against, I don't know, say the Cleveland Browns or something. And it's like, wow, you know what? I might want to drop that one in there. So having a second defense isn't always a terrible thing either. That's not the worst idea if you have a really solid roster, but I necessarily would not recommend it. I wouldn't recommend that thing. So blowing through this again, rule number 5 we're up to is draft young players, especially running backs and wideouts.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, definitely. Like Malik Neighbors lit it up last year. Puka Nacua, guys like that. So you want to look out for like Ashton Jeanty this year, Bijan Robinson again, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kyren Williams, maybe even Travion Henderson, maybe even a Quinshon Judkins. Maybe these guys are going to come out, but draft the young guys because those are the guys who usually stay more healthy prime. You see the veterans and other players like that have lagging injuries or get injured more often because they are older. So you go with younger players, freshmen, sophomore, guys maybe in their third year who are looking for a contract. Those are the players that you want to get really high. So Ashton Jeanty, even though he's never had a carry in the NFL, will be a first-round pick.
So let me ask you this. So do you, when you're doing your research and you're putting your team together, do you get kind of caught up in the hype and hoopla of, like you say, so I think we're all on board saying that Ashton Jeanty is going to be a stud. So watching the pregame show for tonight's NFL Hall of Fame game, they're saying the same thing about Omarion Hampton. So does it discourage you when a team has like a 2 running back system? You bring up Jahmyr Gibbs. That's probably the perfect analogy for this. So you got him and Demont sharing carries. So would that dissuade you at all from making Jahmyr Gibbs an early pick for your fantasy team?
Now that is a fantastic spot-on bonus question right there, no doubt about it, because there are so few teams now in the NFL that do just go with one running back, with Philly and Saquon, or Baltimore and Derrick Henry. Jahmyr Gibbs, yes, he's sharing carries with David Montgomery, but I'll tell you what, Jahmyr Gibbs is still going to be a first-round pick. Why? Because he's got that ultimate lightning in him. He can make a 60-yard touchdown from whether a pass or a run. But other than that being said, like a Washington running back where they got Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr., you're not going to want to draft Brian Robinson Jr. that high because you know that he's going to get some touches taken away from him. And even that of maybe even a Javonte Williams in Dallas, where they got this kid Jaden Blue, who they plan on running a lot. So, yeah, that's a great question, man. So the dual running back system is killing the fantasy running back. That's why you want to get as many of those Bijan Robinsons and Saquon Barkleys, if you can, Derrick Henrys, Josh Jacobs, those type of guys. Ashton Jeanty now, the guys who are going to carry the ball 300 times in the season.
So, and my last question about running backs, because a lot of people try to be the smartest guy in the room. So when you're drafting running backs, so let's say you named all the studs, but let's say I'm thinking I'm going to waste a pick, or I have a hunch, and I get a guy like you say, like a Josh Jacobs, where there's a possibility that he could be have a really good fantasy season, but all things being equal, he probably won't have a better fantasy or be on par as the other guys that you mentioned. So I'm sure when you first started fantasy football, and a lot of people do, they make that smartest guy in the room pick. How often do you see that failing?
When you're saying kind of reaching for a running back?
When you think, like you're pulling like I'm trying to think offhand of what NFL organization does that. I know like Dan Campbell, a lot of people criticize him for some of the picks that he's made, but when you look at it, he's gonna, a lot of these guys have made Pro Bowls, or they've been, they're on, they perform really well. But when you take that reach guy, how often do you see that reach guy fail, and what position is that usually at?
The reach guy, yeah, that'll usually come at the running back position because you're going for players who you're going by their name mostly, and guys who have been around for 5, 6, 7 years, and that's when running backs start to break down a little bit. That's why I say go for those freshmen, go for those sophomore running backs, those guys who have something to prove in the third year going into the fourth of their contract. Those young dudes, those are the ones that you want to go after because, again, that dual running back system is an ultimate killer, and reaching for a running back in the first round, a guy where, let me give you an example. If you reach for a running back in the first or second round like Joe Mixon, that might be a problem because Nick Chubb is right there, and if he can stay healthy, he's going to take carries away from him.
That's probably the perfect example of a guy like Joe Mixon. And Simon, I had the first pick or the fifth pick in a 12-man draft, and I saw that because he shared that with me multiple times during the course of the season. He had actually had a really, really good fantasy
team. Let me see this. He got in his first 5 rounds. He got Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Rashee Rice, and then I guess Jameson Williams from
and Stafford. And I can vouch for that because I saw his team. He had a really, really good fantasy team. As we say, what up, though? How you doing to Steve-O?
Yeah, Steve-O brings out a good point. Now, if you don't know what he means, handcuffing, the best thing to do is taking somebody else's backup running back. So if, let's say, somebody takes a Marion Hampton and you think, oh, maybe this guy might get hurt sometime down the line, maybe you want to grab Najee Harris. Even though Najee Harris happens to be the one who's hurt right now, and Marion Hampton is going to benefit from that. And maybe we'll see that tonight because he's going to play, and that's very interesting.
Isn't that ironic that the running back position is actually making a comeback in the NFL? But the dual two-headed monster is kind of hurting fantasy running backs, as you alluded to earlier. That's a little bit of irony there.
Yeah, man, it really is. I'm telling you, something else. All right. Well, we got a couple of rules left over here. So we are at rule number 6. Try and draft the top tier tight end by really the third round because they're going to go after that. Some may go in the second round, like a Brock Bowers. He may go in the second round. But if you can get Kittle, Bowers, McBride, maybe even you put Sam Laporta in there. Travis Kelce is out of this conversation now. He is not a top tight end anymore, so do not go ahead and reach for him. That would be a bad idea, even though you think maybe he's going to do some comeback thing at 36. Because prime tight end is one position, and it accounts for so much in fantasy. How can I explain it? The tier from tight end, the drop-off that goes after that to guys like David Njoku, or maybe even like a Noah Fant or something like that. I mean, there are a couple of good ones out there. Maybe Jonnu Smith gives you something, but other than those top 4 that I mentioned, you're not going to get consistent top tight end play. So what's going to happen is you're going to get single-digit points from your tight end week in and week out if you don't get one of those top-tier guys who gets the ball thrown to him somewhere around, 7 to 10 times a game. So you really, really want to get a top-tier tight end, and the only way you're going to do that is by going after one in the third round. The fourth round may be too late.
Okay, so there's a couple of I guess you can call them stud tight ends that came out of the draft. Tyler Warren from Penn State and Colston Loveland from Michigan. When you see guys like that, but they're already going into a situation where there's in Colston Loveland's case, he's going into a situation where there's already an established tight end. And I know earlier you were saying, try to go, for the young bucks. Does that same rule apply to tight end? So let's say I don't want to draft Cole Kmet, and Simon knows how big I am on Cole Kmet. Sometimes tongue in cheek, sometimes I really mean it. But do I go after a Colston Loveland, hoping that by week 7, week 8, that he ends up being that guy that Caleb Williams chooses over the two and starts to get the most play, or do I go with the guy that's the established guy?
You do both. You go with the established guy, and then if you're able to get a guy that you're high on way later in the draft, 12th, 13th round, like a Colston Loveland or maybe a Tyler Warren who came out, then you do that. And Steve-O is kind of alluding to it. He's saying that he drafted top 2 tight ends over 3 to 4 wide receivers, especially if you can play them in flex. Yeah, if you can play your tight ends in flex and get top tight ends, go for it. Play them all over the place, no doubt. And Simon said he dragged Jonnu Smith in the 6th round he had last year. And
he did have a good year.
Draft. So that's really good. But no, you don't want to – you really want to try to get one of those top guys. And if you can't, then don't waste your time. Then go ahead and wait a little bit and maybe get, I don't know, maybe a TJ Hawkinson in the 8th or 9th round, something like that.
So, okay, and Simon kind of to allude to his point. So last year, Jonnu Smith had a really good fantasy year because he played on basically a fantasy team's dream when you got Tua, Waddle, Tyreek. Now he's going to the Steelers. So if I'm coming in, and I know tight end is not really, it's very quarterback dependent. So if I'm a noob coming in and I'm like, you know what, Jonnu Smith had a great year last year, but now he's playing with Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
So would I still, stick to my guns and go with Jonnu Smith if that's a guy I like? Or again, it goes back to the established, you got Pat Freiermuth there. Would I still play Jonnu Smith or draft Jonnu Smith based on the year he had last year, or more so what I think he's going to do this year?
No, definitely more so what you think it's going to progress out to be this year. If you think that he's going to get a bunch of targets and they brought him over there for that specific reason, then you get him, but don't get him early. That's a guy that you can wait on. So you got to know who you can wait on and who you got to get early. And those 4 top guys that I mentioned before, they're not going past the 3rd or the 4th round. That's it. But you still can get value a little bit later on and maybe, catch one of these really, one of these good tight ends on, upcoming. But again, you really want to nail that position down in order to solidify your roster because, excuse me, if you're only getting single-digit points out of your tight end each week, you're going to be in a lot of trouble because, again, you don't know what your kicker is going to do and you don't know what your defense is going to do. Those are just so hard to predict, and I mentioned those in my rules before. So let me close it out, Prime, with rule number 7. This is the last one. Always be aware of what the person – I'm talking about the draft now. Be aware of what the person in front of you and what the person behind you are doing because it can help you determine who you can draft and who you can wait on. So if the person in front of you has already drafted their quarterback, you know that you're in good shape and you may be able to wait another round to take your quarterback because you know that person in front of you already got it. And they're not going to take a second quarterback in the 6th round. If another team is loaded up, has already taken their tight end, you don't have to worry about that. And you can wait on your tight end if that's what you want to do. So you got to be aware of what the other people are doing around you and kind of get a feel for the draft. And another thing is don't follow the crowd so much. When the tight ends are starting to go, all right, and you're reaching for one, or the quarterbacks are starting to go, don't reach for one. Nobody thought Baker Mayfield was going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback last year, and he was. And you know what? He was my quarterback, and I won my league in large part because of it.
And that makes perfect sense. So in that scenario, so let's say I'm in a 10-team league and I'm drafting 7th, and all of a sudden I see a run on, and it's, let's say, the 4th round, and 2 of my guys, my top running back that I wanted in my head is already gone. My top tight end that I wanted in my head is already gone. And one of my wide receivers are already gone. How do I guess, kind of adjust on the fly for some of my top guys being taken, before I got a chance to scoop, especially if it's multiple players. So if I'm sitting there and I'm just a bad luck guy, and my number 1 running back's been taken, my number 1 receiver's been taken, and my number 1 tight end's been taken, how do I adjust on the fly to kind of be able to get back in the groove to be, to be competitive in like a 10-12 team league?
Awesome question, because you only may get 60 seconds to go ahead and make a pick. So what do you do so you don't get caught in this? I love it. And this maybe should be rule number 8, Prime. I love this question right now. You pre-draft your rankings. You put down your top 20 quarterbacks, your top 30, 35 running backs. You write down your top 35, 40 wide receivers, whatever it is. Actually take the time to do that and cross them out as you go along. And whoever is next on your list is like, okay, I ranked him here for a reason. I'm going to take him now. But also another thing that I want people to be careful of is drafting the same wide receiver and running back on the same team. That you don't want to do. All right. I mean, even with the Bengals, who are extremely high scoring, you really don't want to do stuff like that because it's very odd. It will not happen as much if your wide receiver and running back are both putting up tremendous numbers each game. That's very rare.
So
Steve,
elaborate on that a little bit. So even if it is a Chase and Burrow situation, or that's or a
that's a good
Jared
situation.
Goff, I mean, so you're saying that there's exceptions to the rules, but the ultimate rule is, the hard and fast rule with a little bit of flexibility is that's something that you really don't want to do because there's not too many combinations like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
But you know what? I'll tell you this. Let's say you draft Amon-Ra St. Brown. You can wait until round 9 or 10, or maybe even a little bit later to take Jared Goff, who's going to give you a lot of points. So there is no problem stacking guys. I mean, how many Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers say? Yeah, absolutely. You want to have both of those guys. So you can definitely do that. But also mixing it up is perfectly fine. Don't concentrate too much on that. Some say you got to watch out for the bye weeks. I don't go by that so much because by the time you get to these bye weeks, so many things have changed already in your lineup. You've gone on the waiver wire. People have already got hurt. So I don't really go too much on the bye week so much. I'm not going to waste my time and miss out on a really good player because of that.
So, okay. So I got a ton here. So does the placement of the bye week affect how, when you're looking at the schedule, because I'm sure you're looking at the bye weeks of certain teams of guys that you're going to draft. Mm-hmm. Does the placement of the bye week affect your draft strategy at all? And I know it's kind of like a broad brush question, but to me, if I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow got a bye week on week 6. But, there's, the other guys that I have playing during week 6 may not give me what Burrow and Chase would give me. So when I'm doing my draft strategy here, do I take that into consideration at all? Are bye weeks a factor at all?
Yeah, bye weeks are a factor because as you're going and you're looking at the bye weeks, I mean, if you have too many guys that have a bye week 8, and you're talking about a whole bunch of studs, then you know what? Yeah, you may want to take that into account. I don't as much. But I'm not going to take my entire roster that has off, in week 8 or week 9 or whatever it is. No, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen. But overall, you want to draft the best players. There are just going to be weeks where it comes so important. Again, why I say you need to go strong on wide receivers and running backs, where you have bye weeks, your top players are going to be out, and you're going to need your bench to step up. That's why you load up on those running backs and wide receivers. Because those bye weeks are killers right there, and you need the best that you can possibly get. And another thing, be active on the waiver wire. When a running back goes down, go get that backup because a whole bunch of people are trying to get to that waiver wire and get that backup running back right there. So you're going to have to be quick on the trigger too, man. You got to watch out.
And I guess now that I think about that question, everybody has bye weeks, so it's all going to come back to you anyway. So it's not like you're the only team, with you're the only guy in the league that's going to have bye weeks with his players. So, but yeah, man,
Steve says real quick, he doesn't like to double dip too much because maybe of the bye week, if you have Chase and, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, then both of them don't play. And then what if they both have a bad week? So I understand not double dipping, and a lot of people don't like to do that.
And well, too, does this, if you draft multiple players in the same division, because a lot of times a division will have more than one team in that division that has a bye week, so that could come back and kind of bite you as well. Is what I'm thinking. So
it is something to check out, no doubt.
So do us a favor and kind of breeze through your 7 rules real quick for those who didn't catch them all.
All right, so we'll go real quick. The abbreviated version. Rule number 1: do not draft a quarterback in the first round. It is not worth it. That is not going to make your team. You need to load up on the running backs and wide receivers, which is rule number 2. For the reasons I just said, you just heard, bye weeks, injuries, everything. You need to have incredible depth there. That's rule number 2. Rule number 3, Do not draft a kicker before your last pick. You don't know what they're going to do. It's all contingent upon how the team does that day, that weekend against that team. And if they're in range for field goals, if there's wind that day, you just don't know. Maybe go for a dome kicker. That could be the only thing I can say, but don't do it before the last pick. All right. Rule number 4, much like the kicker, don't draft the defense until the second to last pick. Because as good as Houston is, as good as Denver is, as good as Baltimore is, it doesn't mean they're going to be the top-notch teams in fantasy when it comes to turnovers and touchdowns and special teams. That stuff is so unpredictable. So don't waste your time going after a top defense with your 8th pick. It doesn't make any sense. Don't do it. Wait till late, no problem. Rule number 5, draft a lot of young players, especially running backs and wide receivers. These guys stay healthy. They have something to prove. Guys going into their 3rd or 4th year of their contract, they want another contract. Take those guys. Rule number 6, try and get a top-tier tight end like McBride or Flowers or Kittle, maybe Sam Laporta. And you're going to have to do this by the 3rd round. But again, you're going to want to stock up on those wide receivers and running backs. But again, getting a top-tier tight end in that one position who can get you double digits each week is a big difference than a guy who may get you 0 points or maybe 6 to 7 points. And rule number 7, be aware of the person in front of you and behind you drafting, because what they do may be contingent upon how you draft. If they have their tight end already, if they have their quarterback already, you know what you can do and what you can wait on and how you can draft. So always beware of what they are doing. And Prime have brought out a couple of other rules that I wasn't even thinking of, like maybe watch that bye week a little bit more. All right. That's Prime. You had some great questions over there, man. I loved it.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen, the 7 rules from the prophet of fantasy football. Now, I'm glad you highlighted that because I want to get to that, Steve-O. Draft players on winning teams. So let's just say that, you know what, I'm going to go out on a limb. Carolina's not a winning team, but I'm gonna take a shot on Ted McMillan. So would I that would be a better value later on, or do I, again, this goes back to my earlier question about trying to be the smartest guy in the room, do I make a reach? Because Carolina's not going to be a winning team. And Steve-O's advice is draft players on winning teams, which makes perfect sense. But we all know that it's kind of like the NBA, where guys averages 25 points on a bad team. You put him on a good team, he's up to like 16 points if he's lucky. So do I, kind of keeping that same train of thought, do I go out on a limb and maybe, if I'm feeling it, get a guy like Ted McMillan or, somebody along those lines who are drafted, but that we think they're going to be good, but they're going to be on a bad team?
Another great question right there. And I disagree. It does not have to be players on winning teams, because when you have players on losing teams and they're down 20 points in the 4th quarter, they're throwing the ball all over the place. And that's when you get those garbage yards. That's when Malik Neighbors was able to get over 100 receptions last year and have, how many yards did he have? 1,300 or something?
Yeah, about 1,300.
Okay. That's why the Giants sucked last year.
Come on.
They were terrible, and he was the top 5 wide receiver.
Take it easy, man. You don't have to stress that.
I'm sorry, Prime.
I predicted 4 wins for them anyway. So, but all right. So I mean, there you have it. There's, you can always rewind and get them again. The 7 rules of fantasy football, as according to the Sports Prophet.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm really, like I say, looking forward to getting back in the game. Simon and Steve-O had some pretty good advice there, but. There's a lot of, I know it's always subjective. There's always like, okay, I take my my top tight end, I take a Brock Bowers, then he gets hurt. And then I take, my top quarterback and he gets hurt. So I think it kind of, along that line of thinking, I think depth might be the most important thing that you can kind of build as you're building your fantasy team, because your starters, they're going to get all the reps. So the more reps you get, the more opportunity you have for guys to get hurt, and not wishing any injuries on any guys. So when I think part of my strategy is going to be, Chuba Hubbard, he was a must start last season.
Yeah, Chuba came on last year. They started playing really good football.
So as I'm building my strategy, I'm going to take all these rules into consideration and probably just totally ignore all 7 of them and just screw up my entire league. No, but they're actually, like I say, they're really good pieces of advice. So anybody out there looking to get into it or hasn't been in it in a while, such as myself. Now, let me ask you this: does the system the league that you're in, the scoring system, does that affect how you draft at all, or you still just basically take the best players available and stick to your 7 rules?
The only thing that would really affect it much is point PPR is points per reception, and there were some leagues that didn't do it, but pretty much I would say 95% of leagues do it now. And points per reception is usually a half a point or 1 point per catch. So Steve-O's saying PPR is weak. Actually, he doesn't like that. He's all about the yardage and the touchdowns and everything, not like in receptions for points. But that's what most people do. That's what most people do now. They have, either in my leagues, it's a half a point per reception. I don't think it should be a point, a half a point, but I think you should reward a receiver for doing that. And it goes for running backs too. If they catch the ball, they get a half a point or a point. So PPR is pretty popular now. That's how they do it, Prime.
Well, I mean, everything that everybody's saying, it makes perfect sense when you kind of hear it out loud and you're not. Like I say, I'm not a total rookie to any of this, but it's just I've been out of it so long. So, to get these tips and these rules and stuff like that is really going to help me. I just, as a frame of reference, I went into, this was years ago. If you're a baseball guy at all, the name Ryan Braun will probably ring a bell.
Yeah, sure.
I got him just on a whim in his rookie season. I had put it in perspective, I had guys on my team like Paul Konerko, Mark Burley, and I think Ryan Braun might have been the best guy on my team. And I finished second in my league, and that was the first time I had ever done a baseball fantasy league. The commissioner kind of nudged me. He was like, "Hey, man, you might want to take that Ryan Braun kid." And I think he did. I don't know if he did it to sink me or whatever, but it ended up working out. Yeah. But yeah, I'm hoping to catch lightning in a bottle this year. Once I really get into the groove and do my research and stuff like that and use your rules and things. So I think I'm going to be pretty okay. Like I say, it's, I got a lot of football knowledge in this old brain. So I'm not going into it, like I say, as a rookie. I'm just going into it as somebody that hasn't done it in a while.
Yeah, I think you know your football enough where you're going to do this and fit right in. As do a little update over here, the Chargers are already up 14-0 over your Lions. Trey Lance leading the charge over here.
Trey Lance. He dated Colin Coward's daughter for a little bit there. I don't know if they're still dating. Yeah, he did.
Oh, man.
And Colin Coward was forced to backpedal on some of the things that he said about Trey Lance on his show.
Hey, I didn't really hear him talk too much shit. That's funny, man. Oh, I love it. But Steve-O says he goes wide receiver heavy because backs always get hurt. Yeah, that's true. That's why you need to have a lot of backup running backs as well, man. That's what I'm saying. But all right, that was a little fantasy action for you. There will be more to come, no doubt about it. All right, but I know we got a little something else cooking up over here, Prime. What are we doing?
Actually, we got our next installment of Big Deal or No Big Deal, where I give the prophet 5 scenarios, and he tells you and me whether it's a big deal or it's not anything we should worry about at all. So we're going to start with the Hall of Fame game. And I'll just ask point blank, is the Hall of Fame game a big deal or is it no big deal? I personally think just because it's the welcome back of football, but is it a big deal or is it no big deal at all?
The Hall of Fame game itself is no big deal whatsoever. It's all about Hall of Fame weekend. It's all about these guys' inductions and their speeches and everything. The game is just there because we love football and they want to try to get viewers. And really, most people are watching about the first quarter and turning it off because they don't know who the fuck is out there. They don't know who that is. Just it's no like idea.
The who's who of who's that, as I like to say.
Yeah. So who's on second? Who's on the 50-yard line? What's that? Not happening. No idea. And so, no, the game in itself, no big deal.
So have you ever been to the NFL Hall of Fame?
No, I wish I have, but I will get there one day.
See, and for me, it's like maybe a 3-ish hour drive. So it's on my bucket list, and I can't believe that I live relatively close to it, and I haven't been there yet. So that is definitely something I want to do, and I might get to do that this season. And my other bucket list thing for football is I want to go to MetLife Stadium. I want to see the Giants play in person. I had an opportunity when they played the Lions. I think it was a couple years ago. The Lions went out to MetLife That would have been a dream game. But,
yeah.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to. But yeah, I'm looking forward to eventually probably in the next few months, hopefully, maybe shooting down to Canton and going to the NFL Hall of Fame. It's just for the history and everything. So
hey man, maybe I'll try to meet you there. Maybe we'll make a thing out of it.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Number 2, big deal or not a big deal? Jerry Jones. There you go.
Yeah,
I don't have to say anything else.
Yeah.
So he came out yesterday and they were asking him about the Micah Parsons situation. And he said, well, Dak wanted to be paid. CD wanted to be paid. I quote, Micah Parsons has to want to be paid. So first of all, let's delve into the idiocy of that comment. And is that a big deal or no big deal? Or is that just Jerry Jones being Jerry Jones?
That's Jerry Jones just wanting the freaking spotlight. That's all it is. We know that they pay their top players. He is going to get paid. I have no doubt about it. This is no big deal. This is Jerry holding on to the spotlight as much as he can. I saw Jerry Jones talking to Micah Parsons on the field. Not personally, I wasn't there, but it was on TV. And I'm sure that Jerry Jones is saying to him, Micah, don't worry about it. We got you when it comes time. We're going to pay you. We're going to make you the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. And that's what's going to happen. It's no big deal. Nothing to worry about, Dallas fans. You got number 11 on your team for the next 4 years at least.
Okay, let's do a side note to that real quick. And I want the chat's input on this as well. Does Micah Parsons should he be the highest paid defensive player or the highest paid non-quarterback in the league?
That's a good
say no.
Right there. He is pretty freaking amazing. I'll put out the number right now if anybody wants to get in on here. I'll put out the number for a second.
Simon says, Steve says, imagine being a content creator and only talk about Michael Parsons' contract. It's why I stopped hitting the like over and over coverage of a bad contract.
Yeah, that's just listen, the man should get paid, and again, they should have paid him way earlier than this, but stupid Dallas Cowboys don't know how to do business, and there you go. That's what happens. But Micah Parsons, he will get his money, and he will probably be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. And again, if they just pay their guys a little bit earlier, Dak Prescott would not be the highest paid quarterback in the league. He wouldn't. Yeah. CeeDee Lamb wouldn't. I mean, he's making what now? $34 million a year.
Yeah,
my goodness. Wow. But so that's the thing. I mean, if you start paying every single position, that's where you run into problems. I mean, you want to pay your defensive end, you want to pay your top wideout, you want to pay your quarterback, and you want to be in a position to do that to win and be able to get into the playoffs, maybe make some noise. But if it's too much money and you're investing too much in that, then you need Dak Prescott to play at an MVP level, and you need Micah Parsons to become Lawrence Taylor.
So, and a lot of that too is timing. So let's say this was 3 months ago before Myles Garrett and Max Crosby and TJ Watt got theirs. A lot of that has to do with timing. So the longer you wait, so had they gotten a deal done with Micah Parsons 3 months ago, maybe they wouldn't have to pay him the 38, 40, 43 million, whatever his contract's going to end up being. So that kind of factors into a lot of that as well. But,
exactly.
That's Dallas. So the number's up there too, 516-205-7574 for anybody who wants to chime in. Call in. Feel free to call in. Feel free to text, and we'll put you live on the air. So let's see. Number 3, Matthew Stafford not practicing due to back soreness. They say he should be ready for week 1. And this is kind of a no-brainer because especially the way that I feel about the Rams going into the season. Is this a big deal or no big deal at all?
Big deal. Big deal. Huge, big, tremendous, humongous freaking deal. This is no doubt about it because your backup is Jimmy Garoppolo, and we all know what he's capable of.
Come on. You don't like Jimmy G? How you doing over there?
Enough of Jimmy G. He's got gray hair already. He's finished. It's all over. It's done for him. Matthew Stafford having back problems now. They are playing it like, oh, it's no big deal. We're just kind of resting him. This is our version of load management in the NFL kind of thing. I would like to believe that for his sake, but bro, let me tell you right now, he's 37 years old, and it is a lot harder to start healing at that age. it is a big deal. Even though Steve was saying not a big deal, we need to see Jimmy versus Kyle once again. I love it. Steve coming out with the good stuff as always, man. But no, this is a very big deal because the Rams are one of those few teams that can compete with Philly and Detroit and Washington, if you want to put them in there in the NFC. And if Matthew Stafford isn't there, I'm sorry, bro, it just ain't going to happen.
So you were talking earlier about ears perking up. So if I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan, because let's face it, even if he is ready for week 1, a back injury or back soreness or whatever you want to call it for a 37-year-old quarterback who's already not mobile, and the punishment that he may end up taking during the course of the season, and I hate to say this, but you kind of hoping right now that Matthew Stafford's able to last the whole season. They're going all in. I think this is that last hurrah for the Rams. Yep. And if there's any injury, any doubt at all about the health of Matthew Stafford, that's going to take a lot of wind out of the sails of Rams fans.
Absolutely. I agree. I'm telling you right now, that is a big deal. I'm very close to putting the Rams into the Super Bowl. I haven't made my final pick yet, but because of Matthew Stafford's health, I don't think I can rely on them to do it. And I'm certainly not going to rely on Jimmy G to take him to the promised land. He'll be a viable backup because they do have a lot of weapons, just like in San Francisco. Let me be honest.
You are so not a Jimmy G guy.
But just like in San Fran, you got the tools, you got the weapons, you got the coach, you got the scheme, you got everything you want right there.
Yep.
So Jimmy just has to not mess up. And God, I hope he doesn't have to play. Well, maybe I kind of do, actually, because I want to win the freaking division.
I was going to say, right?
Hurt. I don't want Stafford to be hurt. I want us to beat the best. Let's get that thing done.
Oh, shots fired. Look at Steve-O's comment.
What is this?
Super Bowl? He said, can he take over? Hey. Actually, you know what, Steve-O? In Prophet's defense, I'm actually very, very, very high on the Rams as well with Davante Adams. I think that might be a move that could, they're easily Nakua, Stafford, and Davante Adams. That could easily be one of the best three-headed monsters in the entire league, not just the NFC.
Kyron Williams in there. Kyron Williams, and then you talk about
and
that.
And then your boy, defense. What's your boy on defense? What's his name?
Yeah, freaking oh my God, I can't remember his name.
Jared Verse.
Yeah, Jared Verse.
So they got some. The Rams. This is kind of like an all-in season. It's not a McVay's not going to lose his job. 2 years, 3 years removed from a Super Bowl, but they're putting all their chips in the middle in the table. So
absolutely.
Let's see, we got another one here now. This one is kind of a toss-up, and a lot of people. This is kind of like a polarizing topic. A lot of teams don't play their starters in the preseason, and we end up seeing a lot of bad football the first 2-3 weeks of the season. So the fact that teams don't play their starters at all in the preseason, is that a big deal or not a big deal?
To me, it's not a big deal. You get so much out of inter-squad scrimmages when you have when you have teams come to your camp for a couple of days and you do scrimmages with them. You get more out of camp, out of training camp, and working with your players and getting the time down. When you're a young player like a J.J. McCarthy, I want to see you play in the preseason and warm up and get your rhythm together. Different players. If you're a veteran quarterback, unless you're trying to break in young wide receivers, I don't want to see you in there either. So really not a big deal to me in that aspect.
So, and I'm actually the opposite of that. I think reps, especially because you're not playing live competition all the time in practice and training camp, I think a couple of drives, a few drives, you might not have to go a whole half like they used to do. But I think a couple of drives, few drives per game is kind of essential, just especially when you're a team. Let's say you're a team like the Bears, who have new everything. The Jets, who have new everything. You got new coaches and this, that, new quarterback, everything. I think teams like that would benefit from having their starters go out there in the preseason just for a few reps.
That I agree with. You're bringing in Justin Fields, brand new quarterback to the team. You want to see something in preseason. They got to warm up a little bit. There's no doubt. As we say, what's up to McNiner over here, as he always says, let's fucking go 49ers, baby. Yes, let's do it. If Stafford's hurt, I think we got that division, brother. We were just talking about that. But, I'm sorry, where were we? Where was I? I just broke down for a second.
The the playing of the starters we were talking about in particular, like Caleb Williams, who has new coaches, he's and then like Justin Fields, who has new coaches, new coordinators.
I'll get with you on that. That's a different story. But if you got a veteran team, I mean, again, you're not going to see. Maybe you'll see Aaron Rodgers play in the preseason here, but when he was with the Packers, you weren't going to see it a lot if he got in there at all. Right. And that did not hurt them during the season because, again, they had those inter-squad scrimmages with other teams. They had the practice. They had the veteran leadership. So it does depend. It varies from situation to situation, in my opinion.
Gotcha. And that makes sense. And I think I asked that because sometimes like the first couple of weeks of the NFL are just kind of bad. And it's like, a lot of people tie that to the fact that the starters don't play. But, as Simon says, I can see both sides, but it's dangerous when you got young guys playing their hearts out trying to make the roster, and one hard hit could take out a start. And that's a really good point. So you get a fifth round corner. And, he's Puka Nacua is going over the middle in the first quarter of a preseason game, and the guy just takes a shot and ends up and I could see that. That makes perfect sense.
No doubt. No doubt about it. You got a 17-game season now. You have even just that one extra game to make sure you get things right. And you're right. The first couple of weeks are shaky for a lot of teams, but those teams that are those veteran-laden teams who have been together for maybe 3-4 years or whatever, which in the NFL is an eternity, you can keep your core together like that. Then again, I don't think that you need to go out there and play these guys and take that sort of risk. It's risky enough when you get into a regular game.
Gotcha. And my last one is kind of another injury thing. So, and this affects your Minnesota Vikings. So Justin Jefferson's out with a hamstring injury. Now, considering the fact that he's had a history of hamstring injuries, is this a big deal or is this not a big deal, because we're still a few weeks away from the start of the regular season?
Bro, I say it's a big deal, and it's also because Jordan Addison is facing, I think, a DUI charge right now at the moment, and he may be, losing some time playing. Justin Jefferson, you need him healthy. Best wide receiver in football next to Jamar Chase. Maybe he's number one in your eyes, but if you want J.J. McCarthy to develop, then you absolutely need the Justin Jefferson. And, I mean, there is no question about it. Again, he's the top 2-3 at worst wide receiver in the NFL. So you need to have that guy. And again, with what may happen to Addison, could get a few games suspended, whether it's by the team or by the league, depending on how this DUI charge comes down. Yeah, you're going to need him even that much more. TJ Hawkinson is getting older and not as good as he was 2 or 3 years ago. That rookie quarterback needs all the help he can get, bro.
That makes sense. Here's a quick little bonus one. So there's been a lot of talk over the last year or so about the NFL potentially going to an 18-game season. And that's not really big deal or no big deal, but Chat and Prophet, are you guys I mean, I love the NFL. We all love the NFL. And I don't want to say, enough is enough, but is an 18-game regular season schedule, is that really necessary?
No, it's not necessary, but if they do it, then they need to expand the roster. 53-man roster is just simply not enough in order to have
really add another bye week.
In my opinion, absolutely add another bye week. And what you're doing is you're extending your business for an extra couple of weeks in the NFL where people are more bored in, because now you're giving each team 2 bye weeks, which is the right thing to do. That is how it goes. Steve-O's saying it will happen, but the CBA doesn't end until 2030. I don't know. Maybe I don't know who's going to come in there and swoop in and take over the NFLPA all of a sudden and make something happen. But that 18-game schedule I heard could happen earlier than 2030. There are apparently some stipulations within it. Roger Goodell and the owners are going to have a big say in what goes on. The players probably don't want it, and it's not necessary. 17 games is enough in the NFL to find out who belongs and who doesn't.
Well, especially with the NFL claims that they're so big on safety, and my whole thing is, what would be the quality of those last couple games of the season? You know what I mean? If you go to an 18-game schedule, what's the quality of those? So I'm going to throw in, my number 25 through 47 guys on there. So you're not really. I don't think it's beneficial to the fans. And I kind of agree with Steve a little bit. I'm not a big fan of the 17 game because it poses the same question. The quality of that last game, unless like there's a really tight division race, kind of like the Lions and Vikings last year. you know, to end the season on a game like that. You know, but how often does that happen? You know, so you start to, it's kind of like when you start to add too many games of college football, but, you know, I guess, but a loss or so here or there, you know, it used to be a loss would kind of eliminate you. You know, now with the playoff system in college, shit, you can lose 3 games. Alabama was just a hair shy of missing the playoff last year, and they lost 3 games.
Right.
You know, so I don't want it to devalue the importance of the regular season when you just got so many games. You already got so many teams in the playoffs. Now you're adding more games. So you'd have to, like you say, you'd have to expand the roster. Then you'd have to add an extra bye week. And, you know, it's just that one more week of risk for your players getting hurt.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I agree with you in every aspect of that. I don't like it. There's no reason for it, but there's no stopping the NFL. It's going to happen, just like they're probably going to have a team overseas one day. Jacksonville, or is going to move, or I don't know what the hell's going to happen.
They can have Jacksonville. They can take Jacksonville. Yeah. They can take Cleveland. They could take the Colts.
Take all the teams with the cruddy uniforms.
Hey, let's play.
How do you expect to play prime? How do you expect to play well when you're wearing the Cleveland Browns uniforms? I mean,
we talked about it last week.
They don't work. It's not happening.
It looks like a little kid sat there at the restaurant with his little coloring book while you're waiting for the food, and just did some shit. And like, here you go. And like, hey, let's roll with that one. Yeah. Steve-O says one more game for 8 years is half a season.
How much it adds on to the total of the players. Absolutely. And that's why you need to expand the roster and, you know, maybe load manage. I mean, I don't know, but
don't you dare use that term.
That's the thing. You don't want that to happen. And like you're saying, not even just the last game, possibly the last 2 games, if you're something like the Chiefs and you're, you know, I don't know, 14-2 at that point, and you don't even need the last couple of games. That sucks. I mean, fans aren't going to want to go to fans probably still want to
go. They'll still go, but like I say, you're seeing my number 25 guy through 48 or whatever. So, I'm not a big fan. Let's play. We got a couple minutes. I don't want to take too much time. Let's fast forward to 2032, 2035. This is a Steve-O type thing here. So, Steve-O, this one's for you. So, the NFL, the average value of an NFL franchise is about $8 to $10 billion.
Yeah.
So we've already seen what the Saudis have done, trying to get their hands on the PGA, and then I think last year, the year before, they offered Mbappe like $700 million to play for one team. So they got unlimited money. So let's say the Saudis come over and they say, "Hey, you know, this NFL is something we really want to try," and you get one entity buys the entire league. When I first presented this a couple years ago to a friend of mine, we were talking about Jeff Bezos. So let's say if a billionaire guy that's got $400 billion, and he decides, Jeff Bezos or one of the Saudis say, you know what, let's buy the NFL. And with Jeff Bezos and his Amazon money, he can corner the market on all of the equipment. He can corner the market on all just about everything. It would be like the Amazon Football League. So it would be kind of weird, but it would be kind of, I don't know. It would be very awkward if one entity were to purchase the entire NFL. I don't think it would ever happen because the NFL owners wouldn't go for it. But as we talked about private equity firms and stuff like that, you know, you kind of get the feeling that you're headed down that road. It might be 20 years from now, but hypothetically, let's say one of those entities said, let's buy the NFL, and like a Jeff Bezos. So now you can eliminate Nike from the picture. You can eliminate Russ Wilson and Spalding and all these things, and all of that stuff can be produced by Amazon. And Jeff Bezos would end up being like the first trillionaire in world history.
Wow, man, that is some sick shit right there. Look at that forward thinking. That is some serious forward thinking.
That's the tinfoil hat type thing there. So, but anyway.
I absolutely love it, man. I think that's great. You never know. Look, as long as they keep the game going and keep us happy, then I don't care who owns what. It doesn't make a freaking difference to me. Let Jeff Bezos buy the freaking NFL.
I do hate the fact that their NFL is being split, though, between so many entities when you're trying to watch something on TV. You got to go to Peacock. And the problem with Peacock is that you can't back out of it like you can't channel surf. So you actually got to go out of the app and go back in. I don't like the fact that there's so many streaming services, YouTube TV, and everybody now got their little hands in the NFL. I don't like that, but what are you gonna do? It's all about the money.
And that kills me because I can only have so much. I mean, I'm not paying for every single thing. So the YouTube one, Yeah, I think there's one YouTube game this year. I'm gonna miss it, and that just sucks. Unless
yeah, YouTube TV is what, like $90 a month. You gotta, thank you.
I can't add that on to my shit right now. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen.
Steve-O, you're absolutely right though, and that's kind of what that was the moral of my story. There'd be a total conflict of interest if one entity were to own the entire league. There's no, you take some parity out, you probably end up taking some integrity out, and I think that's what Steve-O's statement is kind of alluding to. You take some integrity out of the game, and it's just something to throw out there. Like, maybe 15, 20 years from now, the Saudis said, let's buy this league.
Who knows, man? Who knows?
They got unlimited money, man. But anyway.
Jeez.
So
anyway, Prime, good stuff, man. Another really good show. I got to tell you, there was some good questions you fired back at me. I wasn't expecting them, but they were really good.
Yeah, that's what I do.
That's what he does. How you doing? That's how he goes over here. All right. Next week, we're going to start breaking down the divisions. We got the NFC East and the AFC East next week. Courtney Harden is going to join us. He happens to be an Eagles fan. So between the three of us over here in the NFC, I don't know, there may be some fighting words. Lions fan, 49er fan, and Eagle fan in the same room. Hey, gosh, that could be a problem. But he's going to help us break down the NFC East next week. So that should be a lot of fun with Courtney Harden.
Well, make sure you guys tune in. If anybody wants to join in, we still have open invites to help us break down the division. So if you guys want to leave us something in the comment section or whatever, we can get a hold of you, shoot you a link, and we can get you on the show, and you can help us break all this stuff down as we inch closer and closer and closer to the start of real NFL football.
We are right there. We are right there, baby.
We're on the cusp.
34 days until the NFL actually starts. Man, I'm on the edge of my seat. Let's freaking go. I can't wait. More announcements to come as we get there. We're going to have more people on. We're actually going to end up changing, not just yet, but in about a month before the season starts, we're going to end up changing over to Tuesday nights and probably starting maybe a little bit earlier at 7 o'clock. We'll discuss all that. We'll let you guys know. But for now, we'll be back same time, same channel next week. My friends, we'll see you then. Peace.
Peace.